Hey, this is Matt from the School of Fiction channel. Are you ready for another great instructional video for fiction writers? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. I'm all about answering questions and responding to emails, and if you'd like to work with me on a video like this, please reach out.
Hi, this is Matt from the School of Fiction channel, and today I'm going to tell you about Elmore Leonard's rules of writing and make some comments of my own. Elmore Leonard, American crime and Western novelist. As you can see, his time span here. And he was a master stylist. And this list is from a 2001 essay that he wrote. And I think this is very interesting material that certainly you could do very well to keep it in mind. There's a lot of it I would follow exactly. Some of it, I think there's a few caveats, a few modifications. And this could be the first of a series in which I talk about rules of writing from famous people. So let's see how interested you are on this one, and let's go from here. The first rule is never open a book with weather. So weather description as an opening, I think, has two weaknesses. First of all, it's a cliche from the old times over the centuries, especially 1700s and 1800s. A lot of writers started off with this, and there are reasons having to do with literary history and style why they would do that. But for the audience of the last, say, 50 to 100 years, it hasn't been so great. It's very static, actually. It doesn't draw us into the action or introduce any characters. And the pacing preferences of readers today might be away from that. Although, again, I can't make any general characterization about all readers. It's true, many of us would rather start with action or dialogue. We would want to engage readers immediately. So we need, a conflict, a problem, a challenge. I usually say get us a character and a conflict on page one. Doesn't have to be line one, but early on. Of course, whatever is interesting works. So weather could establish a mood or preview a theme. In the hands of a writer who has a good plan and good execution, this rule does not have to be applied. Next rule on Leonard's list is to avoid prologues. Now, readers like to get into the main story right away. Authors could, if they were doing it wrong, use prologues to indulge their interest in their backstory, to do an exposition dump. This is something that does happen, and the alternative, again, is to start with the character and the conflict, put your protagonist and a problem, even if it's a small one, for the protagonist right away. Lots of writers do want prologues, and a lot of literary agents and professional editors have been echoing the rule, saying we don't want prologues, we don't like prologues, we want a more fast pace, we want you to get into the action. I don't think this should be a rigid rule. A prologue can be interesting sometimes. I've read plenty of books with prologues. I didn't DNF a book because it had a prologue at the beginning. So while you could certainly go with this rule, you could also violate it if your prologue's really good, then it's not really that much of a mistake. Rule 3 is to never use a verb other than said to carry dialogue. Okay, so this one is a little bit old-fashioned. Leonard was probably correct for readers of the genres that he was a master of, and he felt that said is unobtrusive and keeps the focus on the dialogue itself. In other words, readers don't notice the word said, they just keep reading and they're thinking about the language. And I agree with that, and I've given that advice myself as well. But there may be contemporary writers who disagree with it. I have seen people giving writing advice saying to diversify a little bit. The indirect dialogue tag is also very popular these days. Next slide, I'll review what that looks like. I have examples of it. Here at the bottom is a small selection of other speech verbs that are equally inobtrusive, like said, asked, replied, responded, answered, shouted, explained, stated, commented. I'm sure there are others. These are words that also people don't really notice too much. So just a review of the indirect dialogue tag. Here we go. The direct tag is having the name of the speaker and the word said, like, I love this pizza, said Mario. And then an indirect one will have the character doing something right next to it. I love this pizza. Luigi wiped his lips with a napkin. So Luigi is the speaker. We know that, but it doesn't say, said Luigi. We still know who it is. And this is what I think is the most popular strategy used because it incorporates additional detail and helps people to avoid using direct tags if they feel uncomfortable with them because they think they're distracting, which, again, in my opinion, they're not. Okay. Next thing is never use an adverb to modify the verb said. The adverbs ending in ly, ly adverbs, indicating how somebody said something are considered amateurish or clumsy style. The actual wording should indicate the tenor of the character's speech. So the words that the character spoke and other things like body language that's put in there should be able to convey the methodology. Now, again, I don't think you'll go to hell if you have an ly adverb, but you try to use the other options, try to use the body language, try to use the tenor of the speech, rather than saying, he said thoughtfully, something like that. Let's look at the next slide. Shut up, Bob said threateningly. I hate you, said Bob tearfully. Okay, we don't like these. We don't want these. This is what Leonard is talking about, and yeah, don't do it. Okay, so here are some alternatives. Shut up. Bob threw down his spoon. It clattered in the cereal bowl. So there we have an indirect tag and some physical action to indicate that Bob is angry. Plus the word shut up often is that, although it could be used in a calm way too. Ah, shut up, jokingly. So we have that description to make it clear. Now here's Bob's cheeks were pink, slick with tears. I hate you. So again, Bob is not teasing. He's really angry. And this is some ways that you can avoid the ly adverbs. Okay, next point from Leonard, keep your exclamation points under control. The exclamation points might indicate an author is struggling to trigger a reader's emotion through punctuation when she or he doesn't have the skill to do it with narrative or dialogue. So the idea I think that Leonard was probably going for is that exclamation points are trying hard. You don't want to try hard. You want it to really feel like it flows comfortably. The reader doesn't notice exclamation points, and I really don't have any caveats for this. I think he's pretty much right. Okay, next one is to use regional dialect sparingly. So I have an example here. Sacre bleu, this is a very fancy style to us French. How you say, c'est un good man, mon ami. All right. This is what you should not be doing. If you change the spelling of words to match how a character pronounces them, it slows down the reader who has to take time to figure out what is actually said there. I have an example from a top-level author. Next slide. I 100% agree with Elmore Leonard on this. There's no alteration to the rule. And so anyway, the next example is coming. I also put this in my book, How to Write Dialogue. So if you want to see me analyze it some more there, this is from H.G. Wells, one of the top 3 foundational science fiction writers, Jules Verne being another one who's up there. So in a week, Mr. and Mrs. Skinner were installed in the farm, and the jobbing carpenter from Hickley Brow was diversifying the task of erecting runs and hen houses. I haven't seen much of him yet, said Mr. Skinner, but as far as I can make him out, he seems to be a stupid old fool. I thought he seemed a bit dotty, said the carpenter. He fancies himself about poultry. Oh, my goodness, you'd think nobody knew nothing about poultry except him. And it goes on like this. He looks like a hen. What with them spectacles of his? If you wanted me to read the whole thing, tell me and I'll do it in a YouTube short. But the point here is I understand this because I've read it out. Right? So MEATHURED, BLETHED. I have to sound that out. Methered, blethed. What be methered every blessed day, every blessed end, he says. So what does that really mean? I don't want to read that. I just tell me that Skinner has kind of like whatever type of country accent he's supposed to have. I don't know how to tell apart this accent from other British accents that I know. So I might be doing it wrong too. But if you just tell me he has that kind of accent and then use the word choice those people would use, or maybe at most do 1 or 2 of those on a page. Too much. Wells is great. I read many Wells novels when I was a kid, but this one always struck me as a mistake. Next, Elmore Leonard rule, avoid detailed descriptions of characters. So the reasoning would be this. Excessive descriptive detail can slow down the narrative and distract us from the plot. Leonard maybe would like us to introduce characters through action and dialogue instead. And I agree with him for the most part. I think there are readers who like the detailed descriptions, but not many. And I'm going to tell you why I think Leonard is right on the next slide. Okay. A thoroughly engaged reader will form a mental picture of an important character. This mental picture could maybe put in a few of the details given by the author, but if there's a lengthy detailed description, it may be powerful piece of language to enjoy on its own terms, but most of that will get mentally discarded. Like you may read all of it and you're like, whatever, and you formed your mental picture. And maybe you have the hair color and the eye color and the height, or one other kind of memorable detail. So this is what I would do. Use a sentence of character description, or in whatever way, you limit yourself to 2 or 3 details. When the character reappears again, you can add another one, and the next time, and so on. You can gradually build up that stuff, but to do a whole large chunk of it, maybe not. You can indicate how the person's appearance changes over time. Now, historically, not all writers have obeyed this rule because genre conventions have changed over the decades. So here is a selection from Sir Walter Scott, one of the most successful authors of his time period. This is from Ivanhoe, which was one of his best-known books. And as you can see here, and I'll let you pause if you want to read it after I say this. This is a very, very long description of a character, the companion of the church dignitary. And it goes on for a lot: his age, his physique, his appearance, right? And the appearance is described in a lot of detail here. Then we have his clothing, right? And then we have his facial features. Then we have his skin tone. Then we have his eyes. And look at this: his keen, piercing eyes told in every glance a history of difficulties subdued and dangers dared, and seemed to challenge opposition to his wishes for the pleasure of sweeping it from his road by determined exertion of courage and of will. So we're running against the more popular piece of advice of show, don't tell. This is telling. But telling was perfectly normal for Sir Walter Scott's time. So if you like this, and I like it fine because it's Sir Walter Scott and he knows what the hell he's doing. But I could understand where I might not have stuck with all of this. I might want to learn about him from the scene. So again, matter of taste. Older writers don't obey the rule. I think this is good, but again, it's because this author is really good. Let's move on. Next, Elmore Leonard rule: don't go into great detail describing places and things. It's a very lengthy description. It leads to a slower pace, and many readers are most interested, sorry for that typo, in conflict and drama. Writers may feel like they have to be thorough and give every possible detail. I think that's sort of a beginning writer problem, where you feel like I can't leave anything out. I need to be detailed. I need to cover everything. I don't want readers to think that I left out stuff they want to know. But actually, the only details you need are the ones that serve characterization, plot, mood, theme, and sometimes setting. The things that are actually will make the story have its desired effects. But on the other side, here's the caveat: descriptive writing is an art, and some readers might just like it because they like beautiful prose. Yeah, that's not your typical reader. Most readers are reading to get absorbed in a story and care about a character. But there are writers who just like good writing, and we want to serve them too. So I generally give very limited description, probably less than typical. It's partly because my strength is not descriptive writing. My strength is dialogue and characterization. But also because of what I said about the character description, a couple of details, you're stuck, boom, that's it. The readers will fill in with their visual imaginations. So I describe what the plot needs. And this is my personal way of approaching it. I do sometimes wish I were writing more description, but Leonard gives me a little cover for that. Yeah, thanks, Mr. Leonard. He says, try to leave out the part that readers tend to skip. There's no way to go wrong with this one. Anything you've written for thoroughness, to cover time gaps, to show up your invented backstory, or to flaunt your prose style can be considered filler. That's my wording, not Leonard's. Readers will skip over that stuff. Or they won't skip over it, but they'll get annoyed. It would be a perception of you being amateurish if you're giving information that nobody needs for the sake of thoroughness. That could lead to a DNF, I guess. You could leave in some to serve varying tastes, but don't leave in too much of it. Now, here's the caveat: a story's pacing needs to vary between fast and slow moments, so you can alternate rapid action-packed sequences with more contemplative ones, but those sequences should still contain conflict. So a scene in which a character is just thinking through problems and making decisions and evaluating options could still be very interesting, even though there's no fight and no argument and nobody trying to solve anything other than mentally. So you can control pace, but you should still do things that readers don't want to skip. Okay, and our next rule: our final rule actually is if it sounds like writing, rewrite it. So if you want your writing to be page turning, you want to keep your reader focused on the narrative, it's not a good idea to have the reader shift to thinking about you as an author. That's basically what he's talking about. Yeah, I think there are a fair number of writers who are in love with their prose style, and I understand that. I would prefer to do that only as a set piece within a narrative that's mostly not like that. So this rule isn't as rigid as it sounds. Fiction is full of advanced skilled stylists who have loyal audiences. Readers' tastes vary. I don't know why so many typos. Readers' S apostrophe is what it should be. Readers' tastes vary. Some readers really love elevated and complex language. When you have the trust of your audience, you can jazz up things for them somewhat. The point is not to call attention to yourself when you should be serving the narrative. Now I'm going to go to another expert. Next slide. Our expert is John Gardner. One of the books I loved in my high school days was Grendel by John Gardner. He wrote a lot of good books. I think he might have been a little bit of a pompous ass, but he was a great writer. The most important single notion in the theory of fiction, he says, I have outlined, essentially the traditional theory of our civilization's literature is that of the vivid and continuous fictional dream, or the fictive dream. You can call it either one. According to this notion, the writer sets up a dramatized action in which we are given the signals that make us see the setting, the characters, and the events. That is, he does not tell us about them in abstract terms like an essayist, but gives us images that appeal to our senses, preferably all of them, not just the visual, so that we seem to move among the characters, lean with them against the fictional walls, taste the fictional gazpacho. Do try gazpacho when you go to Spain. It's good. That's me talking here. All right. Smell the fictional hyacinths. In bad or unsatisfying fiction, this fictional dream is interrupted from time to time by some mistake or conscious ploy on the part of the artist. We're abruptly snapped out of the dream, forced to think of the writer or the writing. So to summarize this, what Gardner says very eloquently in his excellent style, that people want to just stick with the story and kind of forget where they are and be absorbed by the text, be absorbed by getting the pleasure of reading. So if the audience suddenly stops and thinks, what is this guy writing? Ooh, what does he mean by that? Then this could be a problem for that category of reader, which is most of us, or it's probably all of us some of the time, and some of us all of the time. So I'll put it like that. And this is why I think if it sounds like writing, rewrite it, makes sense, probably because it would break you out of the fictive dream. Authors aren't supposed to call attention to themselves as much as they are supposed to call attention to the quality of the story they are telling and the quality of the things that they want to say with the story. Okay, so please comment below which of these lists you'd like me to work with. We have Stephen King's 20 writing tips, George Orwell's 6 rules for writing. There is no better writer of the 20th century in English than George Orwell, sorry. Kurt Vonnegut's 8 rules for writing fiction. Margaret Atwood's 10 rules for writing, Anne Lamott's writing rules, and William Zinsser's principles from On Writing Well. If there's another one other than these that you want to call my attention to, I'm open to it. Pretty much, I'm at the point where 1 or 2 reader requests would make me pick it to go next. So please do let me know which of these you want me to talk about. And also, if you are an expert in one of these and you want to record a video with me, I'm up for that too. I'm always up for guests. My channel is all about guest authors, and I'll interview you, promote your book, and we'll talk through a set of rules together. Okay, so here's my contact information. Thank you so much. Please forgive the typos. And I'm looking forward to your questions, comments. Please like and subscribe. And big thumbs up.
The School of Fiction.